Thanks everyone for coming here, and thanks to Brendan for playing the music beforehand. There's actually, for anyone who's read the book, there is actually a time between the music that he was playing and Jan's novels, which he can explain, I think, in a little bit. But anyways, I just want to give a quick introduction and turn it over to our two guests. In case you know, I'm Chad Post from Open Letter, and Open Letter is a new publishing house at the University of Rochester that does all literature and translation, including two of Jan's books, The Conqueror, which is out now and available up front, and The Discoverer, which is a sequel. It's the third part of a trilogy that's going to be coming out in September. This is also the second annual Penn World Voices event here in Rochester. The Penn World Voices Festival, just to give you a bit of background, started 5 years ago in New York City, and every year they bring about 100 writers from all over the world to New York for a week of events, readings, lectures, panels. It's a very exciting thing. And last year was the first year that they had an event outside of New York City. It was here in Rochester. And that is the first of like non-going annual event where we'll be able to have Penn authors such as Jan come up and speak here. This is also part of the Reading the World Conversation series, which we started earlier this year and is sponsored by the Arts and Sciences and by the Humanities Project, and the goal of which was to bring together translators, international authors, and people to celebrate the works from around the world. And that's all I'm going to say about those two things. But I'm really glad to have tonight Mark Binelli and Jan Kjærstad, which I think I'm getting close on the pronunciation for, here to talk to us. Mark is a friend of mine that I've known for a number of years, who actually recently in Rolling Stone there's an editorial in which his editor referred to him as the least neurotic writer he's ever had to deal with, which I will second because I worked with Mark on his novel SACCO VANZETTI MUST Die, which is also available out there, and he was not neurotic at all, unlike some particular authors. Not Jan's not neurotic either. But anyways, his novel SACCO VANZETTI MUST Die! Came out in 2006 and is like a reimagining of Sacco and Vanzetti as slapstick comedians. So it's this very wild, funny book. And it was actually named Publishers Weekly's Breakout Book of the Year when it came out. He's also, in addition to being a novelist, he writes for Rolling Stone as a contributing editor and has done profiles on any number of celebrities, including Brad Pitt, Sean Penn, Radiohead, and infamously Britney Spears, who didn't take a liking to Mark. But more recently, he also writes a lot of features on like the melting of Greenland, on the fall of Detroit, on a number of wider topics. So it's really good to have him come up here to talk to Jan tonight. And Jan Kjærstad came all the way from Norway to be here. He's the author of 9 novels, a collection of short stories, and 2 volumes of essays. One of his most notable achievements is the trilogy that we're publishing the last 2 books from, which is called which I call the Wergeland Trilogy, and consists of The Seducer, The Conqueror, and The Discoverer. The Discoverer, which is a book we're bringing out in September, actually won the Nordic Prize in 2001, which is probably the highest honor that you can get from a Scandinavian writer, short of the Nobel Prize. The 3 books all center around this character named Jonas, who's a really famous TV producer in Norway, and has created this series called Thinking Big that highlights Norwegians, people from history, and sort of emphasizes what they brought to the world. And the big point of all 3 of the books is that Jonas's wife dies under certain mysterious circumstances. And each one of the 3 books, even though this is a trilogy, can be read independently of the other 2, because in each book it describes Jonas's life and then gives an explanation for his wife's death. And in each case, his life is described a bit differently, and the way that his wife died is described differently as well. So they're very self-contained and very interesting. But as you'll hear in a moment when he reads, one of the things that's most compelling about his books is how great of a storyteller Jan is. Each one of the sections in The Conqueror almost reads like a perfect short story, and as they build, it just builds with momentum into this very grand mosaic. So it's time to turn it over to Jan and to Mark to lead this next event. So thanks, guys.
Jonas sits up in bed, can tell right away what Veronica has in mind. She comes up close to him, wearing a thin cotton nightdress with blue dolphins on it. Why do we have to wait till tomorrow to eat the peach? She said, smelling like no one else, sweet, confusing. Jonas isn't sure, he wavers. But Grandad had to have a bit too, doesn't he? He said. He's going to let us have it all anyway, she said. Couldn't you at last go and get it? Jonas tiptoes down to the kitchen, stands for a moment on the linoleum floor, gazing in awe at the fruit on his silver platter, hovering in the bright summer light, a plant called a china. He feels the fruit it exerts on him, as if they belong together, he and the peach. He is Marco Polo. He picks it up and climbs back up to the lot, places it on the sheet in front of Veronica. They look at it. Jonas thinks it is divinely beautiful. From an early age, Jonas was always on the lookout for objects that were more than a scene. Things that in some way illustrated something he could not put into words. At home, he had taken the works out of an old alarm clock. They sat on top of a chest of drawers, a tiny, transparent factory. He liked to look at the gears inside the metal frame, how the cogs turned, how they meshed with one another, not to mention the balance wheel, which pulsated like a little heart. Most mysterious of all was the spring, the spiral that powered all the cogs by slowly expanding. Coil, steel, sleep. The only thing that spoils it a bit, Jonas told little Eagle, which is his friend, is that the birds have to be wound up, that they don't run by themselves all the time. Daniel, who is the elder brother, had a similar set of clock workings, but he, of course, just had to try to unscrew the frame, with the result that bits went flying in all directions, a bit like splinters from an exploding shell. Jonas has gazed respectfully at the spring lying on the floor, ostensibly harmless and insignificant, almost a yard in length. He saw what force, what driving force it possessed. The secret lay simply in coiling it up. The peach had some of this same quality about it, the tension, as of something compressed and capable of expansion. Take off your clothes, Veronica says. Jonas does as he is told, tells himself that the peach demands this. It is a crystal ball which will not reveal anything if it keeps on his pajamas. Veronica promptly puts one warm hand around his balls. She puts the other hand around the peach and shuts her eyes. Then she lifts the peach to his mouth. Jonas feels the soft furred skin against his lips. Down, velvet, silk all at once. He is filled with a fierce hunger. He's got to have a bite of this fruit. The juice runs down his chin as he sinks his teeth into the skin. It's good, deliriously good. Veronica takes a bite before offering it to him again. The tape bounce turn and turn down, sharing it with her hand cupped around his balls.